This ecological biome matches 7 of the 9 preconditions for stimulating terror in humans.
Subnautica never explains what these 9 preconditions are. So we're about to take a dive into real human psychology to firstly find out what those 7 stimulants are in the Blood Kelp Zone, and eventually, the missing 2. Let's start with the first. Unnatural sound. Not necessarily loud, or even dangerous, but sounds your brain can't explain. Humans rely on sound to locate threats. Through sound we can distinguish where it is, how far away it is, and what made it. But in the Blood Kelp Zone, that system breaks down. Sounds echo from the crevices. Distances can be difficult to judge, and some noises don't seem to be tied to anything at all. This triggers auditory ambiguity. When the brain can't identify a sound, it interprets them in multiple ways. And misinterpreting a threat is not always survivable. This is why odd noises sometimes sound scary. It is a natural fear many people experience, and it's one of the 9 preconditions for terror. But sound alone isn't enough to truly terrify. Number 2, isolation. Humans are wired to seek safety in numbers, and the presence of life usually means that it's safe to exist there. But when that life disappears, your brain notices. This is known as social isolation stress. When you're alone in an unfamiliar place, your brain increases alertness because nothing else is nearby to alert you of the danger before it's too late. Subnautica in general is very isolated. Being the only human on the planet reaffirms this throughout the gameplay. But the Blood Kelp Zone feels empty. With very few species in the biome, there should be no ecosystem here. It gives the sense that everything left, or was made to. The third is darkness. This doesn't have to be complete darkness, just enough to see shapes, but never enough to understand them. Humans depend on vision to identify threats, so when visibility drops, your brain starts filling in the gaps, usually incorrectly. Have you ever been in a dark room and felt like you've seen a person standing there, or a face staring back at you? This is pareidolia. Seeing patterns or meaning in unclear visuals. Shadows become shapes, and shapes become threats. In the Blood Kelp Zone, you're always seeing something, sometimes not clearly enough. That's another precondition for terror. But eventually, you have to stop imagining the danger because something is actually there. Predators, or rather, hostile creatures, are a real, immediate threat. When the brain detects a predator, it triggers the fight or flight response. You experience a heart rate increase, and your focus narrows. This is driven by the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for processing danger. If something might be a threat, it treats it like one, and responds instantly with either aggression or fear. In this biome, that threat is very real. You are being hunted. But even if you escape, the next precondition only further increases the feeling of terror. Disorientation, the loss of direction, and the inability to recover it. Humans rely on mental maps, tracking where they are and how to get back to safety. But when an environment lacks unique landmarks, that system fails. This is spatial disorientation. When the brain can't build a reliable map, you second-guess every decision. The Blood Kelp Zone is designed for this. Everything looks similar. There are very few clear paths, and no ensured safety. But this fear isn't just a danger itself. It's the inability to escape it, and that loss of control is another precondition for terror. Number 6 is depth. A word often thrown around the Subnautica community better describes this precondition: thalassophobia, the fear of deep, vast water. Unlike aquaphobia, which is the fear of water itself, thalassophobia is driven by the fear of the ocean's depth and the uncertainty of what lies beneath the surface. And the Blood Kelp Zone embodies this perfectly. Humans obviously didn't evolve for deep water, so when you look into the deep, your brain struggles to define the limit. That overwhelming fear that there's something beneath you is absolutely another way Subnautica stimulates terror. And the last of the 7 preconditions, but not the last of the total 9 mentioned: uncanny visuals. Not completely alien, but not natural either. Humans recognize natural patterns instantly, So when something just seems wrong, your brain instantly flags it. This relates to the uncanny valley. When something looks familiar, but slightly off, it can cause discomfort and unease. The Blood Kelp Zone is full of this. Spider-like creatures that move unnaturally. Vein-like patterns on the floor resembling parasites or even chara. Kelp, quite familiar to the safe shallows, that to me, almost resemble an eldritch ribcage with distorted and broken bones, but now with paler colours that resemble death or decay. Everything looks close to normal, but not quite. That's the 7th precondition of terror that you'll find in the Blood Kelp Zone. But now for the final 2, which are not said to be present there. Number 8, claustrophobia, the fear of enclosed spaces, an extremely common fear amongst humans. It relates to confinement, places where movement is restricted and escape is limited. When the brain sees no way out, it can cause immense panic. Subnautica uses this in many areas, with tight spaces that force you into danger. But the Blood Kelp Zone is fairly open. There's space to move and space to retreat. You're not trapped, at least not for long. So this precondition is missing too. But now, the final stimulant of terror is death itself. Visible death. Humans fear proof of danger, remains, skeletons, decay, any evidence that something didn't survive. This is mortality salience, where people are consciously aware of their inevitable death. In a game like Subnautica, where there are plenty of reminders, it does well to increase fear on the matter. The game does this by forcing awareness of your vulnerability. Other areas show this clearly, like the Lost River and the Lava Zone. Proof of inevitable death. But not here. The Blood Kelp Zone shows no clear remains, just uncertainty. So this precondition is missing too. Out of the 9 preconditions for terror we've discussed, the Blood Kelp Zone contains 7. Darkness, isolation, unnatural sound, predators, disorientation, thalassophobia, and the uncanny. But it leaves out 2, claustrophobia and death. But that might be why it feels so terrifying, because the game doesn't fully show you the danger, only parts of it, then leaves the rest up to you. And we all know that the human mind is very good at making things seem worse than they really are.